and welcome to Kids Corner on Armstrong Channel 20. I'm Miss Krista, and I'm so excited to be here at Golden Union Elementary School with Mrs. Stoll's second grade class. Do you know what this is? Of course you do. It's paper, and paper's been used for centuries for doing all kinds of things, from writing to making paper airplanes to making fans. But there was a time where there wasn't any paper until three young kids came along in this fictional tale, The Story of Paper by Ying Chang Compenstein. And we learned from them all about how they decided to make paper. After that, we're going to make our very own Chinese paper fans. And we're going to use, of course, paper, some popsicle sticks for the handles, and lots of stamps and inks and crayons and anything you have around the house to help decorate that piece of paper. I hope that you love our book, and I hope that you love our craft. And if you would like Armstrong to come to your school, have a grown-up email us at channel 20, that's channel20 at agoc.com. I think I hear our class coming now. Let's get ready. Who has a DS?
I have a 3DS.
Okay. You have, okay. Who has, okay, hands down, here's the next question. Who has an iPod Touch? Okay, cool. Okay, hands down, hands down. Who has been on the computer? Who works on a computer? Cool, okay, put your hands down. Who chats with their friends online? Like on webkins.com or on buildabear.com? Okay, chat, like to talk to them online, right? Okay, who uses their parents' phone to text? Oh my goodness. Okay, hands down. Who has sent someone a piece of mail? Actual mail, not email, mail with a stamp on it. Cool. Okay, good, good, good. Who has sent someone a letter? An actual letter, written it out, put it in an envelope. Yeah, good, 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 good. Wow, that's pretty cool. Who knows how people communicated before there were computers? How did people talk to each other? You in the back. How did people talk to each other before computers? They used letters, yeah, you're right, they used letters. What else? Pardon? I can't hear you, say it again.
Telegraph.
Oh, telegraph, very good, yes, they used telegraph, Pardon? Typewriter, is that what you said? Yep, typewriter, they typed things out. What about you?
The Pony Express.
The Pony Express, indeed. What about you? How else did people communicate? Yep, you with the soccer shirt, yeah.
Horseback riding.
Horseback riding, okay, so they had to ride the letters from one place to another, right? What about you?
I heard that they used string and two cans.
String and two cans, have you ever tried that?
Yeah.
Depending on the string you use, it doesn't work too bad. What about you? You've tried it? Did it work? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. So people have used all different ways to communicate, but everything that you described, there was one thing in common. One thing in common, that from the Pony Express to the telegraph to sending a letter, there was one thing that each of those methods of communication used. One similarity. What do you think it was?
They all used paper.
They all used paper. They had to use paper to get their message from one place to another, right? And what did they use before there was paper?
Chalkboards.
Chalkboards, okay, what else?
Slates.
Slates? Rocks, what else? What do you think they used? What do you think they used?
Bark.
Tree bark, okay. Who else? What do you think they used?
I forgot.
That's okay. What do you think they used?
They would simply use animal skins or something.
Speak up, honey, what?
Animal skins.
Animal skins, excellent, you're right, they used animal skins. In fact, some of the first books in the medieval times were used, they used calf skins. That's very good. And that's why it took forever to write a book. Could you imagine one book, how many skins that would take? And then somebody would actually have to write it. They were called scribes, and that was their job, is to write on those skins. And sometimes, and the sides of them, you can see the scribes would say stuff like, my hand hurts, I'm tired. And that was only one book, so it would have to be a very wealthy family who would pay a scribe to actually copy that book.
What would they write it? What would they write with?
They would, well, it would, that's a good question. What would they write with? It would depend sometimes, depending on where you were and geographically, you would use squid ink, could be one. One could be a mixture of like mud, right? Yeah.
Would they use chalk?
You know what, chalk is a naturally derived resource. So yes, depending on where you were, if you were close to a chalk deposit, you could use chalk. Ink feathers, yep, they used feathers, quills, right? And then they dipped them into the ink pot.
Couldn't they have like use lava rock?
Could they use what, soft rock?
Lava rock.
Lava rock, sure. If they were by volcanoes, people found a way, right, to communicate. Well, there were 3 brothers who knew that they needed a new way to communicate because what they were using wasn't working very well. Who said something? I'm sorry, what did you say? What?
They all look like girls.
They all look like, well, that was just the style of, oh, you know what, one might be a sister, I take that back. But that was just the style of hair for the other ones. Because honestly, short hair on boys is a relatively new thing. Boys used to always have long hair. So this is called The Story of Paper by Ying Cheng Koppenstein. Long ago, before paper was invented, most people in China wrote on the ground with sticks or on their hands with slender brushes. A few wealthy people wrote on silk. At school, students wrote using pointed sticks in the dirt. But the 3 Kang boys, Ting, Pan, and Kuai, often found things on the ground that were more interesting than their schoolwork. Ting and Pan, look at these big fat worms, Kuai said. These ants are more interesting, Pan shouted. Look at this, Ting began. But then the teacher came by. Were they messing around? Some things in life don't change, huh? Thousands of years ago, if you messed around, you got in trouble by the teacher, and that's still true. You 3, over there. The teacher pointed to a place far away from the other students. 10 more math problems. Ting and Pan, look. I'm using the worms to help me count, whispered Kuai. Grasshoppers are easier to add, Ting answered. But ants are easier to find, said Pan. Help, my grasshoppers are jumping away. I was adding 6 plus 5 plus 3, Ting shouted as he ran after his grasshoppers. When he returned, the rest of them had disappeared. It's hard to add when things keep moving, isn't it? Once again, the 3 boys didn't finish their work. Their teacher wrote a note to their parents on each boy's left hand, as he always did. Be sure to hold up your hands and keep them dry, he ordered. On Ting's hand, he wrote, playing with grasshoppers. On Pan's hand, he wrote, playing with ants. On Kuai's hand, he wrote, playing with worms. As the Kang boys passed the rice fields, the men working there called out, boys, what does the teacher say today? Ting lowered his hand and said, grasshoppers. Pan hid his hand behind his back and said, ants. Kuai covered his left hand with his right hand and said, worms. What does that mean? The men looked at one another puzzled, but the Kang boys had already run away. Boy, if they read it on your hand, everyone's going to know what you did wrong in school, huh? As they passed the village, well, the women who were washing clothes called out, boys, what does the teacher say today? Ting lowered his hand and said, grasshoppers. Pan hid his hand behind his back and said, ants. Kuai covered his left hand with his right hand and said, worms. What does that mean? The women looked at one another, puzzled, but the Kang boys had already run away. The 3 boys passed the old fruit tree in the village where old women sewed and chatted. Old men drank tea, and young children ate and played. The old women called out, boys, what does the teacher say today? Ting lowered his hand and said, grasshoppers. Pan hid his hand behind his back and said, yes. Kuai covered his left hand with his right hand and said, what does that mean? The old women looked at one another, puzzled, but the Kang boys had already run away. When the King boys got home, they were all out of breath. Ting gasped, "Why do people always want to know what the teacher said?" "Because he's the smartest person in the village," Kauai answered, rubbing his left arm. "My arm is sore from holding up my hand all the way home." "Mine too," Ting agreed. "I wish the teacher could write on something instead of our hands." Kauai nodded in agreement. Then the whole village wouldn't have to know about it. "What else can he write on?" asked Pan. "We can't afford to write on silk and cloth like rich people in the city do." "Mama makes clothes for rich people," said Kauai. "She has a basket full of scraps of silk and cloth." "But those tiny scraps are too small to write on," Pan interrupted. "Perhaps we can make something out of those pieces," suggested Kauai. "How?" asked Ting. "How do you think they can make something out of all those little pieces of scraps? What do you suggest?" "Pardon?"
They'll just sew it.
Okay, let's see what they do. Let's see what their method is. Papa and Mama King walked into the courtyard. "What's this we hear about ants, worms, and grasshoppers?" asked Mama. "Were you boys playing on the ground again instead of doing your schoolwork?" Papa asked. "What are we going to do with you boys?" Mama complained. The three boys quickly lined up in front of Mama and Papa with their heads bowed. "Those bugs like to play with us," said Kauai. "If only we could write on something besides the ground." "Yes, those naughty bugs keep teasing us. I tried to add them up, but they jumped away," Ting added, standing behind Kauai. Papa and Mama looked at each other and sighed. "Now we have to make rice cakes. We'll talk about it after dinner," said Papa. "I bet we won't have time to play again today," Pan whispered to his brothers. "Let's hurry and pound the rice," said Kauai. "After we spread the mashed rice to dry, maybe Mama will let us play marbles." Kauai used a wooden pestle to mash and beat the rice in a big wooden bucket. "This is easy," he said. "Mama has soaked the rice for 2 days, so it's soft and easy to mash." Papa, Mama, and Pan carried 3 bamboo frames into the courtyard. Each frame held a large square of coarsely woven cloth. "Can we pour the mashed rice now?" asked Kauai. After peering into the bucket, Mama said, "Mash it 20 more times. I think that will be good enough." Do you help your parents with chores?
Yes.
Do you have to mash rice? No, probably not anymore, huh? Ting and Pan each mashed the rice 10 more times. Kauai ran to get 3 big wooden bowls. Papa, Pan, Ting, and Mama set a bamboo frame on top of each bowl. They carefully poured the rice mixture onto each strainer. The water slowly drained through the fabric. Do you think they're getting an idea? You could fold it and make a letter, and sometimes when it's really hot out, you could probably fold it and make
Fan.
a fan. What a fantastic idea. Let's do that one. Here is what I had for you. Ready? Here is what I have for you. I have got long pieces of paper that I cut out of a paper roll that I just bought at like Staples. So I'm going to put that right here for a second. And for our friends at home, these sheets of paper are 12 inches wide by 24 inches long. So if you were going to make it 18 inches wide, I'd probably make it 18 times 2, 36 inches long. But these are 12 by 24, and I'm going to give each one of my friends a sheet of this paper. Now that you have your paper, it's pretty boring, isn't it? Yeah. Are you boring, kids?
No.
No, we've got to decorate it. We have a couple different things. I have, at each table in front of you, I have markers, of course. I have stamps. Okay, you see these? I have stampers, and I made these stampers. because stamps are very, very expensive and I wanted 60 of them. So to make 60 stamps, what I did was I bought little wooden discs at Hobby Lobby. I bought these. They were $3 for about 22 of them. And then I took, who knows what these are? Who has not, have you all used foamies? Yeah. Okay, these are foam stickies. And to make them bigger, I took one and I put it right on top of the other one, just like this, because I wanted them thick enough that you could get your fingers around the stamper. I took the back off of that and I put it right on top of the wooden disc. And that's how we got our stampers. So I made lots and lots of these. Here's that for you. You also have in front of you ink pads. We're gonna open them up. Here are the rules. There's not many rules to Kids Corners, but here are the rules. Put the stamper into the ink, take the stamper out, put it on the paper. That's the only rule, okay? So all you do is put the stamper in the ink, get it nice and good, put it on your paper, okay? Let's make sure everyone gets, I also have in front of you, what are these? Pencils. They're pencils. Guess what? The eraser part makes an excellent stamper. So you can make little dots, okay? So you can each take a pencil and you can start dotting. The whole one side should be decorated. You need to share the ink stampers because I don't have enough for everyone, so you're gonna share. And then after that, we're gonna fold them up and make them into fans, okay?